Hi, my name is Barb Keith. I'm from Mankato, Minnesota, and this is my quilt, new quilts from an old favorite called Sonnet 18 from the Shakespeare sonnet. And the reason I made this quilt is I just retired about a year ago, and I was trying to figure out, what I'm supposed to do with my life, if quilting is supposed to be a bigger part of it than it has been or whatever. And then I saw the contest come up on my Facebook feed, and I looked at it and I thought, I can do that. The time frame, the size, that's a doable project for me. So why don't I just do it and see what kind of response I get? So here it is. That's a pretty good response, I'd say. So I'm not really into Shakespeare, but back in high school we studied Shakespeare, and I remembered there was a sonnet that started, shall I compare these to a summer's day? And so I looked that up to see what it said, and used that for my inspiration. So I decided to do a garden. So this is the garden, and this is the patron. Shakespeare typically wrote a lot of sonnets to his patron, who was a male. And even though the sonnets sound like they're to a lover, they're really to a male. And since he was an unidentified male, I decided to make him a silhouette, which I think was really a fortunate idea because this is such a busy quilt that it's really nice to have that black spot to rest your eyes on. So I looked up gardens in the era where he lived, and they were in the Tudor era. So a Tudor garden has more green than it has blossoms. It has a little diagonal striped fence around the roads, gravel, whatever. So the way I made the garden, and I'm not good at perspective, so I just did a straight garden. This is one log cabin block. Log cabin is the block I chose to use, traditional block. And it was, about this big, and then I cut it in quadrants. So it was chevron log cabins, and then I turned them around so they looked like a nice row. So, and then the Tudor gardens have allays. And so I thought, if it was May, the fruit trees would be blooming. So the color in those indicates the blossoms from the fruit trees. So as you can see, it's a very brightly colored quilt. When I first decided to enter the contest, I thought, well, I could do something really different, but this is kind of how my quilts usually look. They're bright colors, they're asymmetrical, they're wonky, whatever. So I kind of went off that. I designed on a piece of paper, and on the side of the paper, I wrote down how much of each color that I need. So I went to the store, and I'm not one who uses one line of fabric. I take my little piece of paper, I wander through the whole store, upstairs, downstairs, all the little side rooms, and I come up with fabrics that will work for the quilt. So then I got home and I worked on it section by section. So this is one section, and then this is a section, and the poetry, and this is a section, and this is a section. And then so this grassy area was the filler. So the biggest trick was to get the quilt dimensions right and have the filler be where it needed to be. So, and at first I had made a log cabin that went like this and was centered in here, but it just looked really weird to have the tree be a half a tree and have the center be like that. So I decided to make a modified hexagonal log cabin that's half the hexagon. So in case you're interested, in case you're a block of the month person like me, these were from the first block, the first year, the county courthouse steps, so paper piecing. And this technique was from July, this last year. And these are actually log cabins, kind of elongated. And these are little log cabins. And I also researched to see that they actually had tea in Britain back there. I like to drink tea, and I just wanted to have a teapot and teacup on the patio so you could see him overlooking his garden. And so I used a lot of free motion quilting. I do a lot of my own. I've never had anybody do any quilting on my quilts. I've always done it myself. So free motion and some zigzags, and then some fancy stitches from my machine on that, and some applique here and here. And I really hadn't originally planned to put the title on it, but when I got done with the rest, there was more space. So my husband suggested that, and we liked there was just enough. I guess it's maybe a different orange, or else it's faded, one of the two. So I made the title up at the top. And that's the story of the quilt, and I hope you enjoy looking at it. I hope you come here so you can see it in person, or when it travels to the next sites. Thank you.